And welcome back, Elaine, to the welcome back to the Zoom room for another ACIM live session. We'll make this one reasonably quick. So let's jump into today's teaching. There's an email to look at. It's a quote that'll lead us nicely into our lesson today. Okay, so let's just bring that up. Okay, so I'll share my screen. If you can just read the quote. Is that big enough, or should I make it a bit bigger?
Yeah, no, that's fine. It's impossible to perceive your companions as sinless, and yet to perceive him as a body. Is this not perfectly consistent with the goal of pure formless awareness? For pure formless awareness is merely the result of letting the effects of sin go, so what was always true is recognized. To perceive a sinless body is impossible, for pure formless awareness is positive, and the body is merely neutral. It is not sinful, but neither is it sinless. As nothing, which it is, the body cannot meaningfully be invested with attributes of your true self or your ego, which is your belief in separation and a separate self-concept. Either must be an error, for both place the attributes where they cannot be, and both must be undone for truth to be revealed.
Okay, so what's he saying there? Yeshua's telling us very clearly that there is no reality and therefore no true identity in the body.
Yeah, it's not sinless or sinful.
Yeah, because it's nothing. Really. The body's an illusion. So don't give it attributes that it doesn't have. It's just a projection of the mind into the dream world. Seems to be very solid and physical and there and real, but that's the illusion. So in order to free ourselves from the illusion, we must completely let go of identifying ourselves and other people as well as bodies to free ourselves from the belief in sin. Which remember is just the belief that we and others have done something wrong. It's permanent, it's irreversible, and it's therefore punishable. Permanent, irreversible, and punishable is my definition of sin. And if you look at the consequences of that, they're horrific. Because if you believe that, then punishment is required. We look at this in our sent into hell diagram. You see how the genesis of this thought system unfolds. You make the first error of separation, then you believe that you really are a separate self, identify with an individual self, so that's the separate identity name, and then sin underpins the separate identity named. Because you now believe that you're separate, and you now believe that you're guilty of destroying God or love or oneness, and for that sin, you must be punished. So now you invent the concept of a fearful and wrathful God that's somewhere outside of you that's going to punish you, and now you fear a false expectation of punishment appearing real. You fear that punishment. And so, from that come all as soon as you go into sin and guilt and fear, now you've got attack going on because fear and attack go hand in hand. You're only fearing something because you believe that you can really be attacked, you can be hurt, you can be killed. And so all these ideas of the ego come from this false belief in sin, which is horrific. But that's what the ego is, and that's what it does. So fear, obviously pain and suffering. Well, if you need to be punished for your apparent sin, then pain and suffering are the punishment, aren't they? Sickness, also punishment. And the ultimate punishment, of course, is death. Ego says, in order to really be punished, you've got to die and cease to exist. So all fear, pain, suffering, sickness, and death that have ever been experienced by any sentient being in the nightmare this belief produces are a result of sin and guilt. But fortunately, Yeshua doesn't leave us there. He says, well, look, this is how you think it is. You need to be honest about that. Don't think this is something it's not. It's horrendous. It's an awful belief system, a nightmare to be caught up in. But you can change your mind about it, and therein lies your freedom and your awakening. So he's giving us a simple way to awaken from the nightmare. Just don't perceive your body or anyone else's as real. Simple idea. You might be thinking to yourself, but how do I actually accept it? Well, it's exactly what in our mind training lesson we're doing. So my body is a wholly neutral thing is today's lesson, which doesn't need any translation. It's very simple, very straightforward. My body is a wholly neutral thing. Okay, so let's go into our lesson, 294. We'll skip the insert. We have time for it. We'll do it at the end, but let's do the lesson and then go into, we'll do the lesson first and go into the manual for teachers. Okay,
Great.
so lesson 294.
Mm-hmm.
This is about the body and body identification. So if you can read that, the key idea, and then the first paragraph.
My body is a wholly neutral thing.
Okay. And then line by line in the original alternative.
Mm-hmm. I am the Son of God. I am the extension of perfect love. And can I be another thing as well? And can I be another thing as well? Did God create the immortal and corruptible? Did pure formless awareness, perfect love, create the mortal and corruptible? What use has God's beloved Son for what must die? What use has perfect love's beloved extension for what must die? And yet, a neutral thing does not see death, for thoughts of fear are not invested there, nor is a mockery of love bestowed upon it. And yet, a neutral thing does not perceive death, for thoughts of fear are not invested there, nor is a mockery of love imposed on it. Its neutrality protects it while it has a use. Its neutrality protects it while it has a use. And afterwards, without a purpose, it is laid aside. And afterwards, without a purpose, it is laid aside. It is but functionless, unneeded, and cast off. And afterwards, it is not sick or old or hurt. What have I missed out? Oh, and afterwards, without a purpose, just laid aside. Yeah, I've already. So
number 9, it's just functionless.
Yeah. It is not sick, nor old, nor hurt. And the same. It is but functionless, unneeded, and cast off. And it is not, no, it is just functionless, unneeded, and let go of. Let me not see it more than this today. of service for a while and fit to serve, to keep its usefulness while it can serve, and then to be replaced for greater good. I will not perceive it as more than this today, of service for a while and fit to serve, useful while it can serve, and then to be replaced for greater good.
Okay, so read that in the alternative from the top.
I'm an extension of perfect love, and I can be another thing as well. Did pure formless awareness of perfect love create this mortal and corruptible? What use has perfect love's beloved extension for what must die? And yet a neutral thing does not perceive death, for thoughts of fear are not invested there, nor is it a mockery of love's imposed on it. Its neutrality protects it while it has a use, and afterwards, without a purpose, it is laid aside. It is not sick, old, or hurt. It is just functionless, unneeded, and let go of. I will not perceive it as more than this today, of service for a while and fit to serve, useful while it can serve, and then to be replaced for greater good.
Okay, so what's he saying in summary in that one?
Well, that we are a purely extension of love, and this body is purely neutral thing, and it doesn't perceive death or fear or any of those things. And then once it's served its purpose, it's just laid aside. It's not, as we think, sick and old and hurt. It's just functionless and unneeded, and to let go of. Yeah.
So it's a correct perception of the body, saying, okay, well, it's not really real. What use do you really have for it? But okay, you've miscreated this thing. It's not, the body's not just going to disappear. So perceive it correctly, and that's not perceiving it as sick or old or hurt, any of those things. It's just unneeded, functionless, let go of, and ultimately, when you merge back into God, you let go of the body. It's not of any use anymore. In pure formless awareness of perfect love, it has no use whatsoever, does it? It's just an impediment to that. So our job while we're here is, okay, we seem to be still in the body and having to live in bodies, and there's certain body needs and so on, but don't identify with it. Use your time here to disidentify with the body and identify more and more with the spirit source that is in the mind. And that is another way of framing the enlightened journey. So, letting go of your body identification and identifying with the source instead. Okay, so anything else on that one?
No, that's clear. That's clear.
Neutrality protects it while it has a use. So its use is, well, it's there as a vehicle to carry you. I think another helpful way of thinking of the body is that it's like a vehicle. The vehicle, if you're driving a car, let's say, or whatever vehicle you drive, it's not you, is it? I mean, some people do identify with their vehicles, and they start to have identification issues, and they think they are their car. As you know, you live with one of them. So you see the delusion clearly. But if you just perceive it correctly, when a vehicle gets you from A to B, and that's really all it does, it's not your identity. It's got no bearing really on who you are. It's a tool to get from A to B. And yes, you might, it's functional. As long as you're in this world and you have a need for transport to get from A to B, then it's useful. But not needed anymore when you don't need to do that. If you don't need to travel anymore, or if you letting go of the world, you don't need to go from A to B anymore in time and space. It's not needed. So The same way, the body is not needed to facilitate an experience in this world. You don't need a vehicle anymore if you're not going to be driving in space and time. But while you're here, it's a vehicle which you can drive temporarily and learn more and more that you are the driver. You're really in the driver's seat, and the vehicle, which is the body, is not you. The vehicle is not the driver. So that's quite a good worldly analogy to understand it. You step out of your vehicle, you're driving it, but you can step away from it, and you can go away, and you can leave the vehicle parked, and you go away. I mean, in essence, it's kind of what we do every night when we sleep. We park our vehicle, it goes nowhere, and then our mind goes inward, and it goes into the dream state, and then it goes into pure formless awareness, and the vehicle's just it's just left to kind of do its thing. It's okay on its own. There's certain automatic processes that keep the vehicle going.
Does this
But the
apply
mind
also
itself is not identified with the vehicle.
to that? It's all forms: cats, dogs, birds, lizards. Yeah, but they're more in their pure formless awareness, aren't they? The animals.
They tend to be a bit closer to it, but that's not to say they don't have their ego as well. Because they do. You can observe it. They have their personalities, they have their character traits, and of course, nature can be very cruel. You've seen cats playing with mice. They don't really need the food because they're being fed quite well. They'll just play with it, for fun. Which is not kind to the mouse, but that's instinct. They've got that hunting, and cruelty built into their nature. Instinctually. So, anybody. Remember, if you define God as pure formless awareness, that's by definition formless. So there is no form in this awareness. So anything that has a form is by definition not pure formless awareness. In other words, it's a denial of that awareness. It contradicts that awareness. So form denies formlessness. And in the end, we must choose. Yeshua says you've got to choose your reality. Do you want the world of form and everything that it offers, which ultimately is nothing, but you still have these delusions that it does offer you something? Or are you willing to let that all go? Just drop it, go back home. And so, if you make that decision to go home, then you disidentify with the body, but that doesn't mean you just stop in the body. It's of service for a while. You can drive the vehicle, in other words, and it's useful. It gets you around with the body. You can walk, you can talk, you can speak to people, you can use your fingers to type. You can do a whole lot of quite useful things to serve the purpose of your one-ment. And that's what the body's ready for, to serve the purpose of your one-ment while you're here. Everything else is essentially irrelevant. Okay, so happy with number one. So move to number two, just a short prayer.
My body, Father, cannot be your son. My body, my source, cannot be your extension. And what is not created cannot be sinful or sinless, neither good nor bad. And what is not real cannot be sinful or innocent, good or bad. Let me, then, use this dream to help you plan that we awaken from all dreams we made. So I am determined to use this dream to help your plan that I awaken from all dreams I made.
So read that from the top in the alternative.
My body, my source, cannot be your extension, and what is not real cannot be sinful or innocent, good or bad. So I am determined to use this dream to help your plan that I awaken from all dreams I made.
So what's he saying in that one? Summary?
Well, just that this body is not really part of our source. And
because how can formless awareness, pure formless awareness, extend form? See, there's a paradox, isn't it? How can that be? Because it wouldn't be pure formless awareness anymore if it can extend form. So it's quite helpful. You see how the definition of God is very helpful in its understanding. Because if you just call it God and there's no understanding that it's formless, pure formless awareness, then you make all kinds of misinterpretations about what God is and what God isn't. If you understand that it's pure formless awareness of perfect love, then how can it extend anything else? How can formlessness extend form? You know, that's the question. And most teachers and teaching fudge that. And they kind of go, well, it just arose. You know, the manifest arose out of the unmanifest. Okay, but let's just look at that logic. Does that make any sense? How does the manifest arise from the unmanifest? Well, that's a mystery. So we can't really explain it. Oh, okay. So maybe instead of just assuming that it happened, maybe you can see that it's actually impossible. You see, this is what Yeshua's logic is. It's impossible that pure formless awareness could give rise to form, because it wouldn't be pure formless awareness anymore, would it? It gave rise to form. So therefore, you start to teach your mind that, okay, the ego is impossible. The body is impossible. It cannot really be there. It cannot be sinful or innocent, good or bad. And then there's intention to be determined. So I translate it as, instead of let me, it's like, I know I'm determined to use this dream to help your plan that I awaken from all dreams I make. So I'm going to use this dream in this lifetime for what it's really for, which is awaken. And that's the only purpose. That's the only function. And discard all the else. You know, what is not real cannot really be sinful or innocent, good or bad. I just see it as what it is. It's unreal. Remember, that's the Holy Spirit's only decision. This is simply unreal. Doesn't get caught up in the dualistic paradigm. Okay, so a very simple message, but nevertheless profound. A major life lesson. To disidentify from your body is huge. It's not the first lesson he's given us. That's not the final one, because it's a huge theme. You know, to really get this, I'm not a body. I am free, as he says in another part of the workbook. I'm still as God or perfect love created or extended me. You know, this is, I would say, that is the key teaching of this workbook. I'm not a body. I'm free. I'm still as perfect love extends me. That kind of encapsulates the whole workbook quite nicely, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And the metaphysics, you know, in the text is summarized by nothing real can be threatened and nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. So if you fully understood both of those statements, then you'd get the course. You understand it. That's, you know, the one side is the theory, the other is the practical. You understand it. You've merged the two together. You get it. You're awakened. You know, those two simple statements, to really understand them, you would have to go on a whole journey, awoken. All right. So any other thoughts or comments on that one?
That's clear. Good.
Okay. So should we do a meditation on it? And then 20 minutes, then we've got some text to do. It's 4 paragraphs. So we could do that for, it takes about 10 minutes a paragraph. So 40 minutes or so. To aim to finish it by 9:15, if that's all right.
Yeah, 9:15. Yeah, so then I can get back to my film.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's do a med on this. Okay. So just Making yourself comfortable. Sitting with your feet shoulder width apart, the back straight. Up your hands in your lap, you close your eyes. Start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. So you're breathing in, you're noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. Subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Just pause at the top of the inhale. Clench your sphincter muscle, lock the energy in. Just draw the energy up your spine. Into your heart center, put one hand on your heart. Connect with your heart space. Breathe into that space. So you're breathing in the warm feeling into your heart center, that feeling we call love. There's also peace in it. There might also be a sense of happiness and joy, so you can smile as you do that. Breathe it all in and scan your mind. Notice any body type thoughts. Right? So if there's any body ailments, aches and pains, sickness, any kind of suffering on the physical level, physical pain, notice that. Just breathe into it like you're just breathing in. And breathe in, you clench your sphincter muscle, lock the energy in. Draw it up into the crown of your head. Scan your mind for any of those kinds of thoughts and emotions that a body identifies. If you're making the body real in any way, by making its pains, its sickness, its suffering in any way real, or its pleasure. Pleasure and pain are really the same thing because they both increase your body identification. So my body is a wholly neutral thing. Breathing in, say to yourself, repeat these words after me. So I'll speak them. You pause as you listen, and then when I pause, you speak them. Breathing in, say, I am an extension of perfect love. I am an extension of perfect love. Can I be another thing as well? Can I be another thing as well? Good question. Did pure formless awareness of perfect love create the mortal and corruptible? And breathing in again. Full maximum inhale breath. So what use is perfect love's beloved extension for what must die? And yet a neutral thing does not perceive death. Exhale. Just release. A neutral thing does not perceive death. The thoughts of fear are not invested there. So yet a neutral thing does not perceive death. The thoughts of fear are not invested there. Nor is a mockery of love imposed on it. Its neutrality protects it while it has a use. It's really just neutral. And afterwards, breathe again. Afterwards, without a purpose, it is laid aside. Neutrality protects while it has a use. And afterwards, without a purpose, it is laid aside. You breathe in this purpose of the at one-ment, and you let go of everything else. Breathing in again, so it is not sick, old, or hurt. If any of those thoughts, because they're just thoughts, come up, sickness, there's someone in your life who's sick, old age, inevitable decay of the body, the mind in old age. Not sick, old, or hurt, so just blow those ideas away. Breathe in the very essence of health, eternal youth, and blessing to counter the sickness and our age and the hurt. Remind yourself that it is only functions. And just functionless, unneeded, and let go of. Breathe in the very essence of the truth, and then just let it go. Let go of anything that blocks that awareness. And exhale, and just and blow it out, the breeze of your breath. I will not perceive as more than this today. I will not perceive it as more than this today. Breathe in as you say that. And then when I pause, you exhale out through your nose and repeat it. Reading out loud to yourself. So serves for a while. Fit to serve, useful while it can serve. You be made to replace the eternal truth. Be a place for greater good. So exhale. Be willing to let go of these misperceptions. So breathing in again to the prayer. So my source, my body cannot be your extension. How can pure formless awareness give rise to what is not for real? Cannot be sinful or innocent, good or bad. Breathing in again, what is not real? Cannot be sinful, innocent, good or bad. So I'm determined to use this dream to help your plan that I awaken from all dreams I made. And just blow out any judgments. Determined to use this dream to help your plan that I awaken from all dreams I made. Exhale on the truth of that. Let it go. So whatever attachment to dreams you have, Know that it's all illusion. And blow it all away. The breeze of your breath into the nothingness it really is. It's going, gone. And so just sinking inwards, beyond the dream, beyond the body, there is just your true awareness, pure formless awareness, perfect love. And you can just accept that, experience it now. Experience this awakened state beyond the dream. Right now. And so just sink inwards. Nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. You just breathe, relax, be still. Go inward, beyond the body, into your deeper awareness. Stillness and the quietness of your deeper mind, your source that you address here and say, my source, my body cannot be your extension. So this illusion cannot be real. So it cannot be sinful or innocent, good or bad. It's just awakened from this dream that I'm a body. And just sinking inwards. Observe the breath flowing in and out through nostrils. That anchor your attention in the now. So there's no room for past and future thoughts. You just any thoughts come to you that seem to disturb this deep, tranquil peace, observe them casually. Remind yourself that I'm not a body. My body is a wholly neutral thing. So why am I giving the body reality when it's wholly neutral? Breathe in, and you breathe in the awareness, transcendent, pure formless awareness of perfect love. That's God. Breathe that in. And just let it go. Any thoughts, emotions block you, just observe them. Choose to release them by saying, well, my body is just totally neutral. I'm not a body. I'm free. I'm still as love extends me. Perfect love extends me right now in this moment. Exhale. Blow it all away. The breeze of your breath into the nothingness that it really is. It's going, gone. Smell the last remaining air out. And rest in still, calm, quiet, peaceful state of mind for a couple of minutes of deep, peaceful silence. Just experience yourself as pure formless awareness beyond the body for the next 2 minutes. Deep silence. All right, so just gently coming back in this deep connected state into an awareness of the body and the breath, senses in the world. And on the count of three, you're going to open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. Subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Pause at the top of the inhale. Smile. Scan your mind, so noticing thoughts, emotions, related body sensations, anything that doesn't feel good, particularly related to the body, pain, any form, sickness, suffering, maybe thoughts of those, or thoughts of death. Look at all that and remind yourself that I'm not a body. So my body is a wholly neutral thing. I'm not going to attach any meaning or importance to these body-related conditions. The unreal remains unreal, but it seems to be very real to our ego minds. So just blow it away, exhale, let it go. Just breathe it all out, the breathes of your breath. Go into the nothingness that it really is. Blow it out, blow it away. Let it go. Notice how the air flows out. Chest and stomach suck back in. It's the weight of your body pressing down into the chair, your feet touching the ground. Down to 2, notice the weight of your body. Chin touching and feeling, maybe a subtle taste in your mouth, smell in your nose as you breathe in. You're hearing, just noticing all these things from this very still, calm and surrendered state of mind, without illusions, state of mind which only the truth is true. Connected to your source always, this deeper awareness, and it's always with you, irrespective of what happens in the dream, what you think, what anyone else thinks. This deeper awareness never goes away. And you're breathing in. And just connect with this awareness, set the intention to stay here for the rest of the session, the rest of the evening, and on into tomorrow and the week ahead. So it is said and so it is done. And now on the count of 3, just open your eyes. Look around. Observing objects in the room around you, whatever your eyes happen to rest on. Just notice that. With a sense of detachment. No attachment to any of it. Notice that this deeper awareness is still there, whether your eyes are closed, open, close your eyes, open your eyes, look at something else. Notice the same awareness, whether your eyes are closed or open. Notice that it's same awareness as whatever you look at. And God goes with you wherever you go because it's in your mind. So awareness is in your mind. It's lesson 30. God goes with me wherever I go because God is in my mind. So translate God as pure formless awareness of perfect love, and that makes a lot more sense. So awareness goes with you wherever you go because it's your own awareness. That which gives you any existence at all So how can it not be with you? And that simple logic is your awakening. That's your salvation. Awakening, enlightenment. Could it really be that simple? The answer is yes, but you have to stay in the simplicity of this truth, in this awareness, in the face of all of the contradictions to it that seem to exist in this world, which try to tell you that it's not really there. It's not real. Try to deny it one way or another. So just set the intention to stay here, stay rooted in this awareness. Use today's lesson to help you do that. Short breath break, just a quick reminder, can do wonders to get you back into this higher awareness. Transcends the body. Remind yourself that my body is a wholly neutral thing. And so now, on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. Just take a minute to look around. And ground yourself back into this so-called reality, but in this calm, peaceful, clear awareness, hopefully much clearer and lighter than about half an hour ago. So that just to the end of the meditation, the first part of the session prepares us nicely for the next part, which is to have a look at the manual for teachers. Okay, so let's have a look at that, shall we? Manual for teachers. All right, Elaine. So if you want to read this one is section 11. Which answers the question, how is peace possible in this world? A very good question. But sometimes it seems to be very difficult, if not impossible, to find peace. We all know that feeling. So let's see what Isha has to say about it. All right, so you want to read in the original and the alternative line by line, please.
This is a question everyone must ask. This is a question I must ask myself. Certainly, peace seems to be impossible here. Certainly, it seems peace is impossible in my current experience. Yet the Word of God promises other things that seem impossible as well as this. Yet the message of perfect love promises other things that seem equally impossible, including this peace. It has also promised there is no death, that resurrection must occur, and that rebirth is man's inheritance. This message, it has also assured that there is no death, that resurrection is a certainty, and that rebirth is my inheritance. The world you see cannot be the world God loves, and yet his word assures us that he loves the world. The world I perceive cannot be the world pure formless awareness of perfect love cherishes, yet its message assures me that it loves this world.
That it loves this world, yeah.
It loves this world, yeah. And God's word has promised that peace is possible here, and what he promises can hardly be impossible. The message of perfect love has promised that peace is possible here, and what it promises cannot be impossible. But it is true that the world must be looked at differently. if his promises are to be accepted. However, it is true that I must view the world differently to accept these promises. What the world is but a fact. The nature of the world is simply a fact. You cannot choose what this should be. I cannot choose its reality. But you can choose how you would see it. But I can choose how I perceive it. Indeed, you must choose this. Indeed, I must make this choice.
Let's choose this, okay? So read it from the top in the alternative.
This is a question I must ask myself. Certainly, it seems peace is impossible in my current experience. Yet the message of perfect love promises other things that seem equally impossible, including this peace. This message has promised peace. It has also assured there is no death, that resurrection is a certainty, and that rebirth is my inheritance. The world I perceive cannot be the world pure formless awareness, perfect love cherishes. Yet its message assures me that it loves the world. The message of perfect love has promised that peace is possible here, and what it promises can hardly be impossible. However, it is true that I must view the world differently to accept these promises. The nature of the world is simply a fact. I cannot choose what this should be, but I can choose how I want to perceive it. Indeed, I must choose this.
So what's he saying in this one?
Well, in my current state, peace seems impossible, but in perfect love's state, promises that there is peace, and he promises that there is peace, and assures us that there's no death, and rebirth is our natural inheritance.
That we can, be reborn in the spirit. Resurrection is a certainty. Rebirth is my natural inheritance. No death, resurrection is certain. My resurrection is certain. And my rebirth is my inheritance. Rebirth into the spirit. Rebirth as my true self, Christ. I think that might be a bit of clarification. Is my inheritance. And then he says, yes, although this is a given, you must change your mind. It is also true that I must view the world differently. So I must choose how I want to perceive the world. I can choose how I want to perceive it. Indeed, I must choose this. So that's our one remaining freedom in this world, is to choose how we perceive it. I mean, we seem to be caught up in the matrix. We get all these sights and sounds bombarding us. We seem to have physical bodies, all these senses. We kind of jacked into the matrix. So our one remaining freedom of choice is, how do I perceive all of this? Can't really do much about my body in the short term anyway. So, I've got a body, I've got senses. The world seems to continue around me. I seem to be, living in this world in a body as a human being, with all these special relationships going on and various challenges. My only choice is, how do I perceive all this? I'm saying that's your one remaining freedom of choice, that you must exercise that choice consciously. Whether you like it or not, you choose it. If you are choosing the ego, that's just the default choice. You don't realize you're choosing it because it's become so habitual. You don't realize it's actually a choice. So this teaching is saying, well, make the choice conscious again. Become aware that there's a choice, because as soon as you're aware there's a choice and that you are always choosing, then you have a choice again, don't you? If you're not aware there's a choice and you just choose by default, then you're not aware there's a choice. And of course, that's where the ego wants to keep you. Not even aware that you have a choice, oblivious of the other alternative. And you just live your life on autopilot, not even realizing that actually you are choosing the ego, because the ego has convinced you that that's all there is to choose. So there's no choice. This teaching is saying, no, there's always a choice. And this mind training is about making you aware of that choice. And then as soon as you're aware of it, you now have a real choice. And of course, you will start to exercise it more and more as you start to realize that that choice is really the only intelligent choice, the only sane choice. And this is what most of his mind training is directed towards. Yes, you have a choice, remember that, and make the correct choice rather than the wrong choice, which you've been making over and over for many years. Okay, it makes sense. Any other questions or comments on the first one?
That's
Happy
good.
to move to number 2.
Again, we come to the question of judgment. Here we revisit the matter of judgment. This time, ask yourself whether your judgment of the Word of God is more likely to be true. I must ask myself whether my judgment of the message of perfect love is more likely to be true.
Yeah, or the message, not of. My judgment or the message.
Oh, yeah, for the message.
My judgment or the message of perfect love. So those are the alternatives. More likely to be true.
Yeah. For they say different things about the world, and things so opposite that it is pointless to try and reconcile them. For they offer contrasting views of the world, and opposite that reconciling them is futile. God offers the world salvation, your judgment would condemn it. Pure formless awareness of perfect love offers the world freedom, but my judgment would condemn it. God says there is no death, yet your judgment sees but death as the inevitable end of life. Pure formless awareness of perfect love declares there's no death, but my judgment perceives death as the inevitable end of life. God's word assures you that he loves the world. Your judgment says it is unlovable. The message of perfect love assures me of its love for everyone and everything, but my judgment deems them all unlovable. Who is right? Who is correct? For one of you is wrong. For one of you, for one of us must be mistaken. It must be so. And the same, it must be so.
Okay, so read that from the top in the alternative, please.
Again, we revisit the matter of judgment. Now I must ask myself whether my judgment or the message of perfect love is more likely to be true. For they offer contrasting views of the world, so opposite that trying to reconcile them is futile. Pure formless awareness of perfect love offers the world freedom, but my judgment condemns it. Pure formless awareness of perfect love declares there's no death, but my judgment perceives death as the inevitable end of life. The message of perfect love assures me of its love for everyone and everything, but my judgment deems them all unlovable. Who is correct? For one of us must be mistaken. It must be so.
Okay, so what's that saying?
Well, it's just another revisit of judgment. And you've got the choice of perfect love or the separate self. And they just offer the contrasting views of the world. So trying to reconcile them is futile. Our separate self, judgment condemns, and perfect love offers freedom. And it assures us that it loves everyone and everything. But my judgment deems them all unlovable. So which one do we decide? Which one is correct?
Because it's so obviously a contradiction, isn't it? I mean, how can you love and hate at the same time? Is that really possible? How can the same entity, a God can be a God of love on the one hand, and then, suddenly I'll just change my mind, and now I hate and attack and fear and condemn. And this is where, traditional religions really struggle to make any sense, because they seem to believe in this dualistic God. God is love, then God is, also a God of punishment, condemnation, fear, attack. If you don't do what God says, then you'll be punished. Well, both of those views can't be true, can they? Because they contradict each other. And he's saying, well, one of them is right and one's wrong. There's your judgment, your ego's view, or there's, message of perfect love, which says no one is condemned. Everyone is actually still pure, holy, innocent, free, loved and loving. And it loves them because it is them. It is them. And it's as simple as that. It is them. Its awareness is them. And so, the love is that pure formless awareness of perfect love, which is their very existence, foundation of what they are. It's not like an entity that created them now loves them. It just is them in truth. So one of these views must be false and one must be true. This is what he's saying. And we've got to decide which one is true and which one's false, because both cannot be true. As he says, it must be so. One of us must be mistaken, because these views are so diametrically opposed that you can't reconcile. Just trying to reconcile them is futile. They offer contrasting views, such contrasting views of the world. Trying to reconcile them is futile. Futile. So again, I mean, this isn't the first time he's told us this, is it? But it's the same message. Look, you got to choose. There's no point trying to fudge it, as so many teachers and teachings do. You have to choose between them, because they're total contradictions. And if you choose a little bit of the ego, then you have to choose all of it, because it's one cohesive thought system, as is the Holy Spirit. You can't have a little bit of illusion and also the truth, because they contradict each other. So again, stating the matter very clearly, as if we haven't got the message clearly enough already. But I think the more he states it, the more obvious that truth becomes, doesn't it? So the first time he states it, you're not really going to get it. Maybe not the second time, but maybe by the 100th time, you're starting to sort of sink in. Go, okay, I'm starting to understand the logic of this, and that yes, I have to make a choice between this world and another. And there's no fudging it. There's no getting away from it. My attempt to reconcile these two opposite thought systems has resulted in this paradoxical world that I seem to live in. See, this world is a compromise attempt to try and reconcile the irreconcilable. And it's why the world ultimately doesn't make sense, why there is so much paradox and contradiction in it, and why we'll never find happiness. Because it's a result of a compromise. It's a result of trying to reconcile the irreconcilable. So what else can you expect but a lot of conflict, a lot of confusion, that there's no clarity? How can you find peace of mind in such a contradictory reality? And you can't really until you choose. So choice, clear decision leads to peace. This is what he's saying in this section. But let's continue with the message. Happy with number 2?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. So number 3.
The text explains the Holy Spirit is the answer to all problems you have made. The text explains that the remembrance of perfect love is the answer to all the problems I have created. These problems are not real, but that is meaningless to those who believe in them. These problems are not real, but this is meaningless to those who believe in them. And everyone believes in what he made, for it was made by his believing it. And everyone believes in what they have made, for it was made by their belief.
And that's quite a key line, isn't it? I mean, that's why the illusion is so convincing. Of course, you believe in what you made up because you made it up by believing it. So your belief is inherent in its making, and then it's inherent in the perpetuation of what you believe you've made. So you believe, false belief leads to this manifestation, this illusion, and then you continue believing in that illusion, which reinforces the belief that made it. And so we got caught up in this feedback cycle. Stated another way, projection makes perception. We project out, that creates this idea of perception, which then reinforces that there is actually an external world and that we are separate, you see. And we've got caught up in this false belief of separation, perpetuated by the projection perception mechanism of the ego. And this is what needs to be really looked at and let go of in order to free our minds. All right, carry on.
Gently
hopeful.
Into this strange and paradoxical situation, one without meaning and devoid of sense, yet out of which no way seems possible, God has sent his judgment to answer yours. Read it up a little bit, yeah. Into this strange and paradoxical situation, one without meaning and seemingly inescapable, pure formless awareness of perfect love has given its judgment to replace mine.
Pause there. So just edit this. One without meaning, devoid of sense. And one that is meaningless, senseless, meaningless, senseless, and seemingly inescapable. Oh, it's nice. Pure formless awareness of perfect love has given its judgment to replace mind. What is Center's judgment to answer yours? Someone has given its judgment to answer mine. Okay, number 5.
Gently his judgment substitutes for yours. Gently its judgment substitutes for my own. And through this substitution is the understandable made understandable. And through this substitution, what seemed incomprehensible becomes clear. How is peace possible in this world? Incomprehensible, yeah, it becomes
understandable.
Understandable. Right. How is peace possible in this world? How is peace possible in this world? But in the judgment of God, what is reflected here is only peace. Just need to lift that up a bit, yeah. But in the judgment of perfect love, only peace is reflected here.
Yeah. Would you read number 8? In my judgment, it is not possible and never will be. So the ego says peace is not possible. Yeah. And that's just the way the world is. And you probably, if you talk to people who are very much rooted in the ego, they're just like, oh, well, what can you do? I'm not very peaceful myself. The world's not a peaceful place. There's always conflict. There's always strife. There's always suffering. There's always war. That's just how it is. And it's a very cynical view of the world, isn't it? And they just kind of resign themselves to this. Well, that's just how it is. And then, the ego tells them that accepting that is somehow going to bring them peace. Accepting the insanity of the ego as somehow real and normal is going to work to bring them peace. And of course it won't. It just entrenches that insane thinking and the whole belief system. And the older you get, the more despairing it becomes, because there's evidently no hope in that. Where's it all going? What's the purpose of all of it? So that you can, live, suffer, die? I mean, where does it all go? Why all this pain and suffering, and then everyone dies anyway? It starts to become evident if you've got, just a smidgen of honesty and common sense that doesn't really make any sense. What goes on here? Because we all die anyway. So why all the drama? Why all the pain and the suffering? And then in the end, everyone dies. Well, what was the point of all that? So the ego says it's not possible. You'll never find peace of mind. Never will be. And you've kind of got to somehow make do with the world, somehow find a way to live in this world and sort of make your way. And everyone has their models to do that in the ego. Some go, well, it's about finding the woman or man of my dreams and having a family. Others say it's about money. Maybe it's about both. Having, success in the world, however you define that, in your career, in, whatever you want to accomplish. And so we try and find a way to kind of make this world work for us without really seeing so clearly that you can't. The world will never work. It's not designed to work. In the end, it's going to kill you. And it will cause you to suffer along the way. That's always been the case. It's the human story. So in the ego's judgment, it's not possible, never will be, but in the judgment of perfect love, only peace is reflected here. Why? Because it overlooks the insanity. It says, this is not real. Look beyond this to the true awareness, which is always peaceful. Pure formless awareness of perfect love is by definition peaceful, because there's nothing else. It's just pure. There's no contradiction to it. It's just that the singular awareness that by its very nature is peaceful. If it's not peaceful, then it's not pure formless awareness, which is why I capitalize peace. You notice I capitalize it because it's of the same order. It's pointing to the same reality as the other terms, like pure formless awareness of perfect love, or just perfect love, or the answer. It's just another pointer to that same top level domain, if we want to look at it, this God, love, oneness, pure formless awareness, that's outside of the ego's thought system. The top level, maybe that's a better look at it. Top level domain, level 1, that transcends even the true self and the illusion of this world. So peace is just another pointer, another term that we can use, as is joy, as is love. They all point to the same fundamental truth that exists beyond all the dream world, and even beyond the Christ, or the true self. It knows itself to be one self, but still can perceive the world. It's even beyond that, because in this awareness, in perfect peace, there is no perception. Perception has disappeared. So, the source of your peace is not found in the world. It's when you overlook the world. It's in correcting your perception that the world is real that your peace is found. And then only peace is reflected here, because you're always rooted in your true, deeper awareness, which is peaceful. Does that make sense? And so now the world finally starts to make sense. You go, well, I just perceive the meaningless and the senseless and the seemingly inescapable matrix I've been trapped in as what it is. It's just a trap. It's meaningless. It's senseless. It's pointless. I'm not going to try and justify it. And now I start to understand what's really going on. What was previously incomprehensible from the ego's point of view suddenly starts to make a whole lot of sense. You go, oh, well, now I understand why the world is such a mess. And I understand why there's so much pain and suffering and sickness and death. And that's been going on forever. Despite humanity's attempts to try and improve our lot with technology, we still have all of this going on today. So how much has technology really helped? Not a great deal. I think in some ways technology is the false promise, is the false god of the ego, because it says, well, if you keep going on this track, life's going to be wonderful, and you'll make this all work. And it's a false promise, as all the ego's promises are, because it's never, there hasn't been a technology invented that can overcome death and suffering, and there never will be. The only technology, if you want to call it that, is radical forgiveness, and that is a state of mind. That is a process, an attitude that you go through, process to get to that attitude in your mind. So you could call it a technology, I suppose. It's really just a change of mind. The material technology and the material ways we try to improve life are already pointless. Because that's what he's saying. It's meaningless, it's senseless, it's pointless. Because you're actually going nowhere. You're still caught up in your dream world. Whether you've got fancy technology in your dream world or not, the outcome's inevitable. We're all going to die anyway. So what is the point of that? And when you understand that, then in the judgment of perfect love, which has now replaced the ego, only peace, the peace that surpasses all understanding, that's beyond this world, is reflected here. You actually see that actually there's always been that peace. You just couldn't see it because your mind was absorbed with the dream, and you wanted to make the dream real and try to find some peace and happiness in the dream. Once you realize the futility of that, you give that up, then peace becomes inevitable. It's like, well, I can find peace because I've just been looking in the wrong place for it. So stop looking there and look beyond that, and then you find it. Does that make sense? Right?
Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's such a simple teaching, really, but it's pretty radical, because it's saying, well, everything that you thought would work, chuck that out, because it's not work. Has it ever worked? Has this world ever brought you peace? That's the question you have to ask yourself.
Yeah.
For long. Might have gone, well, there've been moments, I might have had a nice sunset, or gone for a walk. I might have had, nice interaction with someone or animals. But does that peace last?
Mm.
Not very long, does it, if you're honest? It's like, well, that's a very temporary experience, and then it comes and it goes, and then life carries on, and then, inevitably my dis-ease comes back, my non-peace comes back, because something comes and it triggers it. And I was peaceful for that very short time, and then something else comes back, and my mind starts getting turbulated again and stressing. And that's been the pattern of your whole life. Because you're still attached to the world, as long as you look to the world for peace, then there's always going to be that duality. Oh, well, no, I just need that. I need a beautiful sunset to have peace. Or whatever the requirement is. And then because you see it as outside of yourself, you also set yourself up for non-peace. Oh, well, because I believe in the external world, then something happens. I have an argument with someone cuts me off in traffic. I get a bill from the tax man I didn't expect. And, all these issues you've had. And then you're not at peace because you're still attached to them.
Mm.
So the only way to find peace is to overlook them. This is what he's saying. And if you can do that consistently, then you can always have peace, because you just overlook anything that disturbs your peace. It means you've got to overlook the entire world. Can't sort of go, oh, well, I'll overlook that and that because those aren't nice, but I'll accept the reality of this and this. Because that's compromising, isn't it? It's either all real or it's all unreal. You can't kind of pick and choose. We try to. That's the compromise attempt of the ego. Oh, well, I like that bit and that bit of the illusion, but no, I don't like that. So no, I don't want that. I'm happy to let go of that and that, but more those bits I like. So I'll stay, I'll keep those. And I think I can pick and choose amongst illusions. Somehow that's going to bring peace. But he's saying, give it up. It's never going to work. And surely by now, we should have recognized that it's never going to work. Because have you ever found peace by seeking in the world for it?
No,
honestly, no, we haven't. That's why we come to the course, because when all of our efforts fail and we can't understand life and we're still not happy, we still can't find peace, then you're ready and you're really frustrated and maybe a bit, disappointed and in despair, disillusioned. Then you come to the course. It's like, well, okay, now finally you're ready to actually hear the truth and you're receptive to it because you've experienced the disappointment of trying to make the ego system work and failing over and over and over again. You failed your whole life to make the ego system work. So why would you think that suddenly what's failed your entire life, and in fact every lifetime, would suddenly work to bring you peace? And now he's saying, now you have some understanding. And that is the absolute gift of this course. You suddenly start to get it, don't you? You're like, oh, I get it. It makes sense now because this is an illusion. It's false. I understand why the world's a mess. Okay, I'm starting to understand truly now. And then, you understand the whole picture. Okay, well, it's an illusion. It's false. So overlook it. No, the way out then becomes obvious, doesn't it? Just overlook it. And don't judge it as real. Okay, so happy with number 3. Any other comments or questions on that one?
No, yeah.
All right, so number 4, which is the last paragraph.
Yeah. Peace is impossible to those who look on war. Peace is unattainable for those who focus on war and conflict. Peace is inevitable to those who offer peace. Peace is inevitable to those who extend peace. How easily, then, is your judgment of the world escaped? Therefore, escaping my judgment of the world is remarkably simple. It is not the world that makes peace seem impossible. It is not the world as I perceive it. Oh, where have I gone? It is not the world itself that makes peace seem impossible. It is the world you see that is impossible. It is the world as I perceive it that is impossible. yet has any, has, where am I?
Yet has God's judgment.
I don't know what number I'm on. Where am
6. Yet has God's judgment. Here we go. There we go.
Yeah. Yet has God's judgment on the distorted world redeemed it and made it fit to welcome peace. Yet perfect love's judgment on this distorted world has liberated it, making it a fitting place to welcome peace. And peace descends on it in joyous answer, and peace descends upon it in joyful response. Peace now belongs here because the thought of God has entered. Peace now belongs here because the thought of perfect love has entered. What else but a thought of God turns hell to heaven merely by being what it is? Thought of perfect love has what else but pure formless awareness of perfect love can transform victimhood and suffering into heaven simply by its true nature. The earth bows down before the gracious presence, and it leans down in answer to raise up again. The earth reveres in gracious presence, reveres in gracious presence, and the presence leans down in answer to raise it up again. Now is the question different. Now the question has changed. It is no longer, can peace be possible in the world, but instead it is not impossible that peace be absent here. It is no longer, can peace be possible in this world? Instead it is. How can it be possible for peace to be absent here?
Well, so read that from the top in the alternative.
Peace is impossible for those who focus on war and conflict. Peace is inevitable for those who extend peace. Therefore, escaping my judgment of the world is remarkably easy. It is not the world itself that makes peace seem impossible. It is the world as I perceive it that is impossible. Yet perfect love's judgment on the distorted world has liberated it, making it a fitting place to welcome peace. And peace come to it in joyful response. Peace now belongs here because a thought of perfect love has entered. What else but pure formless awareness of perfect love can transform victimhood and suffering into heaven simply by its true nature? The earth reveres.
So heaven is the state of pure formless awareness.
Yeah.
Hey, I missed that one for some reason.
And the earth reveres its gracious presence, and this presence leans down in answer to raise it up again. Now the question has changed. It is no longer, can peace be possible in this world? Instead it is, how can it be possible for peace to be absent here?
So what's he saying in summary?
Well, peace is impossible for those that focus on war and conflict, and peace is inevitable for those who extend peace. So escaping the judgment of the world is actually very easy.
Mm.
So it's really, as it is the world as I perceive it, that is impossible. So, it's really the question we need to ask is, how is it possible for peace to be absent here?
Yeah. If our true nature is peace, pure formless awareness of perfect love, and that's fundamental nature of everyone and everything, how can that be absent if that's the truth? So it's just a change of perspective from the ego, focusing on the ego. It's really, what do you focus on? You focus on the world. This is the foreground, the illusion, the images on the screen. Or do you focus on the background, the screen itself, which is just pure and formless and never changes? Where's your focus? Because both seemingly exist, don't they? They're the images on the screen. That's the dream, which seems to be, all around us, and images are coming and going and changing all the time. Or there's the screen, which isn't as obvious, but it's always in the background. That screen, if you focus on that, is always peaceful because it never changes. That's pure formless awareness of perfect love. Akin, in my analogy, to the movie screen. If you're watching a movie and you just focus on the screen, which is never changing, like none of the images that project onto the screen change the screen at all, do they? The screen remains unaffected. Same idea. The piece is unaffected. So how can it not be here if that's the case? If you see it correctly, you will always have peace, won't you? But it requires a fundamental change in perspective and a shift from focusing on form to focusing on the background to form, the formless that underlies all form. And that shift is exactly what the miracle is. That's what the mind training is about, to help you to start perceiving the background rather than the foreground, making what was in the background and hidden and overlaid by these grotesque images that the ego projects on them, bringing that into the foreground of your perception, and the images recede into the background. So they're still kind of there, and you notice them. That's Christ's vision, but they're not really a problem. They don't really affect your peace because the background is so prominent in your awareness. And that's the shift that this mind training is trying to accomplish. That's the miracle, when the background becomes the foreground and the foreground goes into the background. That shift is the miracle, or the correction of your mind that this whole course is designed to accomplish.
Right.
That makes sense. Another way of looking at it, but it's a helpful perspective. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Is it okay? Because I've got an early morning start as well for work, and I've got a few chores to do. So do you mind reading this? And I'm just going to go off and do my chores.
Why don't you just read the summary quickly? It's one page, and then go.
I'll do the key message, and I'll let you do this personal one because I've got loads to do actually. Yeah.
Oh, but Elaine, what have I just did? Bring the background.
To be honest, I'm tired. I'm tired, and I just want to get my chores done. Yeah. So I just follow the flow, and my flow is
It'll probably take 2 minutes to read this one page, I would say. Maybe 3 minutes.
Oh, can you? Yeah. Do you mind? I'm just ready to go. Right.
What's ready? So what's ready to go? Who's ready?
It's just, I want to do my chores. I've got to get up very early in the morning, and I just want to go with the flow. And my body is saying, get some rest, do this. I'm not going to be able to see my film now.
Yeah. It's not your body, it's your mind. Right? It's your mind.
Yeah, but my mind wants to just go and do what it wants to do.
So what part of your mind is the question?
Why don't you do that, and I'll do the key message?
Okay, well, you listen. I'll read the personalized exercise, but you listen. Okay, so should we do that? It won't take long. It's only one page. So in reflecting upon my experiences and the assurances of perfect love, I recognize a profound disparity between my perception of the world and the promises offered by this divine essence. The world as I perceive it seems incompatible with peace, freedom, and the absence of death. Yet the message of perfect love promises, these seeming impossibilities. I understand that to accept these promises, I must perceive the world differently. So we've got to change our perception, in other words, in order to experience these realities. So I'm faced with a choice between my judgment and the message of perfect love. My judgment condemns the world and perceives death as inevitable, while the divine perspective offers freedom and denies the reality of death. I'm compelled to question the validity of my own judgment because of this stark contrast. So it's one or the other, in other words. We must choose between these two opposite thought systems. The remembrance of perfect love is the solution to the paradoxes created by my beliefs. My own judgment makes peace unattainable, but peace becomes the only reality through the perspective of perfect love's judgment. Change my perspective, then peace is inevitable. The path to peace then is not through changing the world itself, but through changing my perception of the key point. As I embrace the perspective of perfect love, accept, I perceive the world freed and transformed. And this shift in perception makes peace not only possible, but inevitable. And this prompts me to ask not whether I can ever find peace in this world, but how it could ever be absent. Oh, very well said. So, total change of mind, change of perception. How could it ever be absent when before I was like, how could it ever even be possible? All right. So you want to read the key message, just one paragraph. Elaine, you still there? No? Okay. I'll read the key message then. So I can see a stark contrast between my worldly perceptions and perfect love's promises of peace and freedom. Faced with this choice, I realize that accepting the perspective of perfect love instead of my own judgment transforms my perception, making peace not only possible, but inevitable. So key messages. If you transform your perception, peace becomes inevitable, which is a very comforting thought, isn't it? Okay. Any other thoughts or questions? You're happy to.
No.
Elaine, happy to leave it there.
No, no, I'm fine. Yes.
Okay. So thanks for joining. And tomorrow, I wonder if we could do an afternoon session.
I'm literally busy all day. I've got loads of work. It can only be the evening for me tomorrow, but I can come on. I've got Dave coming on. I've got a lot of work on Tuesday as well. So I've got quite a busy few days. So it's going to be evening for me till Wednesday. I might be able to do. No, Thursday I can do an afternoon.
Okay. So do you mind? I've just got an appointment with the doctor tomorrow afternoon.
Oh no, not at all.
5:25. So I won't be able to do a 6 session because I'll probably still be getting out of the doctor.
No. I mean, obviously it's
So
going with the flow of life, isn't it?
Gashed. They're taking off all the stitches and stuff. So if we could do 7 o'clock, we do a 7 start tomorrow.
That'll be fine. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
All right. See you tomorrow then at 7.
Okay then. Right. Good night.
Thanks, Elaine.
Sorry about that. Yeah. Thanks. Thank you. It's a good session. Very interesting.
Yeah.
And I know I hear what you're saying. It is unfortunate though when when you've got an agenda, like obviously I've got loads of massage tomorrow and I've got a few chores and I've got dishes to wash there.
Yeah.
So it kind of
I know, but my point is 5 minutes isn't really going to make a difference, is it?
Well, we were going to finish at 9:15 because I was so looking forward to watching the film, but I'm not going to be able to watch it now. And you've only got a short time because I'm one of those people. If I'm tired, I'm best to go when I'm tired because otherwise I'm up all night. Well, I'm exaggerating there, but you kind of know your body system, your cycle, if you get what I mean.
Okay. Yeah. But it's ultimately your mind. Your mind is can override it all. But anyway.
Well, it can, yeah.
Reflect on that.
Yeah,
It's
but
not never your body. It's always your mind. It's making the
well, yeah,
decision.
my mind is saying,
No, no.
get your chores
Yeah,
done, because then at least you can rest, because you haven't got dirty dishes in the morning. It's that kind of thing. Yeah.
no, I know, exactly. But you got to reflect on what part of the mind that is. It's telling you that. So I'll leave that to you to reflect on, and
Well, I just
we'll chat
prefer to
further
have
tomorrow.
a clean house. I do. I like a nice clean house. It makes my mind feel clean.
Fair
Yeah.
enough, but 5 minutes is probably not going to make a difference either way. So
Well, it's
anyway,
not.
reflect on that, and we'll chat further tomorrow.
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right.
Right. Good
Have a
night.
good evening and a nice day.
Okay. Okay. Good night. Good night.
All right. Bye. So thanks to Elaine for joining. Good session. And if you've joined online, you watch the live stream or you're watching this recording. If you'd like to join us for one of these live sessions, see below. There's a link to go join the masterclass next year in January. Go to theaolg.com. Links below in the YouTube text box, and sign up to see how this Art of Letting Go course and program can transform your life. Also, can receive some of the material that I showed you up front as a Telegram message. So there's a link below. Go to lifegoal.com to sign up to that, subscribe to that, and look to if you haven't subscribed already, then subscribe to the channel so you get notified whenever I go live, which is 6 days a week. Get all that content streamed to you. So thank you for listening and watching, and I hope to catch you on the inside soon, and wishing you much peace. Namaste, which means the peaceful self in me acknowledges and honors that same peaceful self in you. Oh, okay. John's just alrighty. Well, I'll just open this again. Hi, John.
Hi,
I was I was just about to say goodbye.
oh, right. Sorry. Yeah, I'm very
And
late.
you joined.
Very late.
And I was like closing off, and then John's just popped in. So we've there is some a little bit more we could do. We didn't do the that insert on what is the real world. So we didn't have time for that. So if you wanna have a look at that,
Yeah.
do
Okay.
that, or
Yeah.
got any questions? Got any questions about the any of the Management teachers or anything?
No, I'm okay. I'm okay with it.
You're right. Yeah. Okay. So it's just going. All right. So where are we? Let's get back to okay. Some 294. Okay. There we go. All right. Show the screen. Okay. Share screen. How are you anyway? Before I do that, do you want to?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks. I'm good. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. Anything to share or not? Not really.
No, not really. No.
No. Okay. Share screen. Okay. Okay. So this is insert 8. That answers the question: what is the real world? So if you want to read that in the original and the alternative line by line as you do, and then we'll have a little discussion about each paragraph.
The real world is a symbol, like the rest of what perception offers. Yet it stands for what is opposite to what you made. Your world is seen through eyes of fear and brings the witnesses of terror to your mind.
Are you doing it original and alternative?
Sorry. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, I just got a bit carried away there.
It's okay.
Back to number one. Alternatively, the real world is a symbol like the rest of what perception offers. And when he's saying real world here, he's meaning real world with a small r, isn't he?
Yeah, well, it's the world of form perceived differently. That's what the real world is. So if you look at our diagram here, it's this red box. All the people, places, things, events, circumstances, situations, etc. Traumas, successes, failures, all experiences that seem to exist and happen in the physical universe of time and space, but now perceived from the perspective of your true self, which can only perceive correctly as true perception or Christ vision, which is miraculous in nature because it's a correction for the false beliefs that the ego has infused into the world. You no longer believe in duality. You perceive the real world. You don't believe in what's been shown to you. You don't believe the form is real. You don't believe in the pain and the suffering and the hurt and the sickness and the death. You overlook all that and you realize that none of that can be true because there's only one truth. There's one self. You are one with that, and that is love. So none of this can be true. So it's small r, but it points to the real world perceived is the world perceived correctly. So you're now transcending the illusion and you're establishing yourself in the Christ as the true self more and more. The more you perceive correctly, the more you reinforce this true self, and the closer you get to God, being pure formless awareness of perfect love. So the Christ and the Holy Spirit, which is your ability to perceive correctly in the dream, deliver you back to God, or in our language, deliver you back into the state of pure formless awareness of perfect love. And so the real world is a necessary step in the correction of the mind. You don't just go from being completely identified with all of this to pure formless awareness of perfect love. It's very unusual. It happens very occasionally. Someone can just, completely have a revelation and wake up. But mostly it's a process of correcting all of these false beliefs about who you are and how that's then expressed in your perceptions. And that correction is when you perceive the world correctly, you perceive the real world. That's what he means by the real world.
Okay, good.
Does make sense? So it's it's small because it's still on this level. All right. You're still talking about, it's not pure formless awareness, but it's the world perceived from that state, from the Christ. And you asked the question, well, how can the Christ perceive the real world if the Christ only knows pure formless awareness of perfect love? Which is, we answered that question. Because actually this is all impossible. This unreal world is impossible. But now you must perceive it correctly, that it is really impossible. What you're perceiving from the ego's perspective is just an impossible world. And we've just discussed that in today's. Did you read today's section on the manual for teachers?
No, I haven't read the manual bit. No.
How is peace possible in this world? Well, kind of connected, right? I mean, it's all connected. So read the summary. That's a good.
Okay.
Funny, Elaine didn't want to read the summary, so come in 5 minutes early. You could have read it, but we can read it and discuss it if you
like. Okay. In reflecting upon my experiences and the assurances of perfect love, I recognize profound disparity between my perception of the world and the promises offered by this divine essence. The world as I perceive it seems incompatible with peace, freedom, and the absence of death. Yet the message of perfect love promises these seeming impossibilities. I understand that to accept these promises, I must perceive the world different.
Okay, so what's he saying in that one?
So he's saying that when we think about it, and we start to recognize that by perceiving the world through the eyes of spirit, we see that the illusion is just an impossibility, and that perfect love promises peace.
The caveat is I must perceive the world differently. I must change my mind about the world. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. So then he goes on, I'm faced with a choice.
I am faced with a choice between my judgment and the message of perfect love. My judgment condemns the world and perceives death as inevitable, while a divine perspective offers freedom and denies the reality of death. I am compelled to question the validity of my own judgments because of this stark contrast. So he's saying here that we need to make a choice between believing in the illusion and having faith in spirit.
Yeah, it's a total contrast, you know, and if you see that clearly, it's like, well, how can both of these be true? The one's talking about eternal life and love and peace and joy, and the other's talking about fear and guilt and sin and fear and hatred and attack. Well, both of these can't be true. They contradict each other. So one of them must be true and one must not. It's very simple logic, actually. It's like, well, surely that's common sense. But apparently not in this world. We try and compromise and we try and somehow marry these thought systems together. And this world is the compromise attempt to do that. That's why it doesn't make any sense. It's completely paradoxical. And then we try and make sense of the paradox. You're saying you never will make sense of the paradox. The only way of making sense of it is to overlook the false and accept only the true. That's the only way of resolving the paradox.
Yeah.
So I must be compelled to question the validity of my own judgments because of the stark contrast. If you're honest about it, you know, it requires a high degree of honesty. But if you're really honest, you're like, yeah, well, how does it make sense that you could have a God of love and there's only unconditional love, so-called God is love, and then, you know, you get this fear and anger and hatred and attack. Well, how could the God of love have created a world like this? So God of love is not compatible with the belief that God created the world. The two are obviously in contrast. So, you know, which is true? It's the same question, isn't it? It's the same contrast, whichever way you look at it. So I must be compelled to question the validity of my own judgment. Well, maybe I believe that God did create the world. Maybe that's wrong. As he says, this course requires that you question every value that you hold, every single value up to this point. It requires a level of brutal honesty that most people are not willing to undergo. Remember that chap I mentioned? He was an intelligent guy. He studied non-dual theory. He studied the course. He studied Advaita. But he wasn't honest enough. He wasn't honest enough to say, but hang on, I cannot reconcile this. He thought he could have the truth and the illusion, and they could be equally true. And when I pointed out to him that that's impossible, he didn't like it. He's like, no, I don't get that. I want to believe, because I want to believe that it is possible to reconcile the irreconcilable, even though it's obviously not if you have any common sense and honesty. So he's just asking us to be very honest with ourselves and not try and, you know, reconcile what's irreconcilable. Next one.
The remembrance of perfect love is the solution to the paradoxes created by my beliefs. My own judgment makes peace unattainable, but peace becomes the only reality through the perspective of perfect love's judgment.
So what's he saying there?
It's saying that by aligning ourselves with spirit, we will see through the illusion and join with reality.
Yeah. This becomes the only reality when we see correctly. But it takes a fundamental shift in perception to do that. An absolutely fundamental, because you have to perceive the whole world differently. You have to perceive yourself differently. Everything's got to change in order to facilitate that becoming of peace. And then it's like, well, how much do you want peace? Are you willing to let go of every thought, every belief, every value that you've cherished in order to have peace? Because that's what it's going to require. Most people are not. They value the world too much. But the enlightened ones of this world, the awakened and awakening ones, are the ones who say, yeah, I'll make that trade any day, because this world evidently, usually through their hard experience, doesn't offer me anything. Certainly can't offer me peace. I want peace above all else. So yeah, okay, I'm willing to then question everything that I think I know. All of my own judgments must come into question. And I'm willing to continuously do that through this process of mind training, of course, takes you through to ultimately undo all of them and allow the Holy Spirit, the perfect remembrance of perfect love's judgment, to replace my own, which guarantees that I'll always be peaceful. Because the Holy Spirit's judgment simply says none of this is true, none of it's real. So why are you getting upset over it? Why are you letting this disturb your peace if it has no reality? The obvious logic of that, once you understand it, is it's so blindingly obvious that how can you not then accept it? And it takes a lot of mind training to get there. Okay, so the last one, the path to peace.
The path to peace then is not through changing the world itself, but through changing my perception of it. As I accept the perspective of perfect love, I perceive the world transformed. This shift in perception makes peace not only possible, but inevitable. This prompts me to ask not whether I can ever find peace in this world, but how it could ever be absent.
And what's he saying there?
So he's saying here that we need to change. We can never change the world, the illusory world, but we can. Well, we can only change it through our perspective of it, our perception of it, which is actually transformative to the degree that we'll wonder how it could not be that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's a total you thought peace was totally impossible in this world, in the ego. And then you shift totally around. You say, but how could it ever be absent? How could I not be at peace? That's the profound shift that enlightenment brings. Like, well, I thought it was never possible, and now I can't understand how it could ever be absent, because it's so obvious. It's always there. It's fundamental reality. It's my true nature. How can I not have what's my true nature? But that requires a huge shift of mindset, doesn't it? And that's what this mind training is all about, bringing about that shift. And then just a key message, which summarizes it all quite nicely in one paragraph.
I can see a stark contrast between my worldly perceptions and perfect love's promises of peace and freedom. Faced with this choice, I realize that accepting the perspective of perfect love instead of my own judgment transforms my perception, making peace not only possible, but inevitable.
Yeah. Simple message, but enormously profound. Enormous. So anyone who is not peaceful, that's pretty much most of the world, if they're not on a serious spiritual path. Like you read this, you go, well, here's the answer. It's right here. Just change your mind, change your perspective. And only then will it become possible. But it's not possible for your ego to attain peace. That's what we've got to realize. Your ego will fail to find peace, love, joy, happiness, enlightenment, and anything else, because it's not real. How can the unreal succeed in attaining what's real? It's just not possible. When you realize the impossibility of the ego's thought system, then you're starting to make progress in this course, aren't you? So, well, that's just impossible. It's never going to work, so give it up then. As long as you still think it's possible, then you somehow try and make it work. And you fail time and time again until you get so disillusioned and so frustrated that you open to a teaching like this that says, well, just look at it for what it is. It's not real. It's not possible to do this. And so that's why people often come to the course later in life, because they need that bitter disappointment and the difficult life experiences to teach them that, okay, to open them up to this message. If you still think the world's going to work to bring you happiness and peace, you have to be disillusioned first before you will accept the truth. So this is generally why people come to this later in life, or after they've had a lot of disillusionment, a lot of pain. I came to the course when my entire world, my dream of being a champion squash player was shattered. I was so disillusioned. It's like, well, I've spent my whole life trying to achieve this, and I've got nowhere. Like, what's going on? Like, have I just failed completely, and am I useless, or actually maybe the thought system is wrong? Unfortunately, I started to question the thought system that I believed in, and that then opened me up to a totally different way of thinking, which has led me to where we are right now in this pure non-dual teaching of the course over 25 years. 25 years later, and you're just starting to really get it now, getting a glimmer of the truth. Okay, so that's a little summary of without going into the whole thing. That was a summary of the Manual for Teachers reading today. So let's go back to, which does give us some context here, actually, because it's all very connected to this idea of the real world. So where were we? Number 2, I think.
Yes.
Yet it stands for what is opposite to what I made.
Yes, yet it stands for what is opposite to what I made. Your world is seen through eyes of fear and brings the witnesses of terror to your mind. I see my world through eyes of fear, and it brings the witnesses of terror to my mind. The real world cannot be perceived except through eyes forgiveness blesses. So they see a world where terror is impossible and witnesses to fear cannot be found. The real world cannot be perceived except through eyes letting go blesses. The real world cannot be perceived except through eyes letting go blesses. So they see a world where terror is impossible and witnesses to fear cannot be found.
And what he's saying in that one?
It's saying that it's saying the real world is a symbol, but it stands for what the opposite to what I have made in the illusion. And that I see the illusion through the eyes of fear, and all I get is evidence of that. And the real world cannot be perceived except through eyes that bless what they see and make a world where terror exists impossible. And there is no fear. By saying it's all in the eye of the beholder, really.
Oh. So how do you change the world? You change your perception of it. It's so obvious because the world is perceptual. You don't have to go and change anything on the physical level. Just change your perception of it. Seek not to change the world. He said, seek to change your mind about the world. Your mind about the world. And that's how you change the world. Instantly, instantaneously, you change your perception. You just change the world, didn't you? Because the world's just in your perception. It's such an obvious truth. It doesn't exist anywhere outside of you. So, and then suddenly, this course makes a lot of sense. Like, well, they just changed my perception. And there's no order of difficulty in miracles because I can just change my perception like that if I want to. There's no order of difficulty in corrections because I can correct my perception, change it, and then the entire world changes in that moment. And it doesn't require any huge shifts on the material level, which the ego, because it's obsessed with the material world, says, well, that's what a miracle is. You have to get, huge, wondrous changes out there. No, I just change my perspective, my perception of everything, and I can do that in an instant. That instant is called awakening or satori. Oh, I just get it. I see. Suddenly. I see the real world suddenly. And this happens so often to many people in different cultures, traditions, spiritual paths, or no spiritual path. Eckhart Tolle, example, no spiritual path at all. He said, I was totally asleep. I wasn't religious. I wasn't spiritual, didn't believe in God, nothing. And then, boom, suddenly he just has this realization. He kind of wakes up realizing that, he can't stand himself anymore, collapses his ego, wakes up the next morning, and he sees the real world. He's like, oh my goodness, this is beautiful. I'm actually seeing the light. I'm seeing peace. So if you read his book, which you probably have, when he describes that awakening experience and how he then perceived the world the next day after that. Do you remember that passage?
I don't.
He's saying it's like beautiful. Well, he's just saying that it's like I was seeing the world anew. I was like, I'd never seen the room, just a room with the sun shining in. Nothing really different from any other day. Well, okay, the sun was shining, but just pristine, beautiful, innocent. He said, I can't describe it. It was so beautiful. And then, he goes into London and he's riding around on buses and tubes and stuff. And he's just like, but it's so peaceful. So now he's perceiving nothing's really changed. London continues to be the busy city it is, but he's changed. So he sees peace wherever he goes. That's what we talk about when you come into the real world. He's seeing the real world in that moment. And because he'd had a profound shift, internal shift, then, that was then became his new perception of the world, the real world, rather than the false world that he'd lived in for 29 years. And that's called a rebirth experience. He was literally reborn that night into another self and another world, being reborn into another world, because the world's completely changed compared with his, the previous world. And that happened in a moment, overnight. Usually it's more gradual. For most people, it's a slow process of correction and mind training. But those dramatic cases like his are useful because you go, but it can actually happen just like that in an instant. And then his entire world's changed, and that has been a permanent change. It hasn't gone back because it was such a profound shift. Okay.
The real world.
Number 2.
Yep. The real world holds a counterpart for each unhappy thought reflected in your world. A sure correction for the sights of fear and sounds of battle which your world contains. The real world holds a counterpart for each unhappy thought reflected in my world. A sure correction for the sights of fear and sounds of battle which my world contains. The real world shows a world seen differently, through quiet eyes and with a mind at peace. The real world shows a world perceived differently through quiet eyes and with a mind at peace. Nothing but rest is there. There is nothing but rest there. There are no cries of pain and sorrow There are no cries of pain and sorrow heard, but nothing there remains outside forgiveness. There are no cries of pain or sorrow heard, for nothing there remains beyond letting go. And the sights are gentle, and the sights are gentle. Only happy sights and sounds can reach the mind that has forgiven itself. Only happy sights and sounds can reach the mind that has released itself.
And just read that in the alternative from the top.
The real world holds a counterpart for each unhappy thought reflected in my world. A sure correction for the sights of fear and sounds of battle which my world contains. The real world shows a world perceived differently, through quiet eyes and with a mind at peace. There is nothing but rest there. No cries of pain and sorrow are heard there. But nothing there remains beyond letting go. And the sights are gentle. Only happy sights and sounds can reach the mind that has released itself.
So what's he saying in this one?
So he's saying that for every unhappy thought we have, there is a corresponding transformation. Yeah. And the real world is a place seen through the eyes of peace, where it's impossible where it's perfectly possible to see through pain and sorrow to what is beyond it.
And this is, the enlightened perspective. If you read about accounts like Eckhart Tolle and many others, enlightened beings have this perception. Well, I don't see the pain. I don't get caught up in the dramas of the world. I just, no matter what happens, I'm peaceful. Seems incomprehensible to someone who's not enlightened because they don't have the same perspective. But when you're in that correct perspective, then peace is inevitable, and you can't fail to be happy because your perspective on the world is correct. So he's pointing us here to this awakened state, enlightened state, and you're still in a body, but you're in the world, as Yeshua put it, but not of the world. You're still perceiving. You have sights and sounds, but all of those perceptions are very gentle. It's like this underlying peace, this pure formless awareness of perfect love, which is deeply peaceful, just infuses all of your perceptions with its grace. And so it kind of smooths off all the rough edges, and really you only experience peace, no matter what seems to happen. It doesn't mean that the world suddenly becomes completely peaceful and there's no war and there's no conflict. That continues, but you don't perceive it, and it doesn't disturb you. So for you, it's not there. And that's the only way you're ever going to find peace in this world. Okay, happy? Move to number 3.
Yeah. What need has such a mind for thoughts of death, attack, and murder? What can it perceive surrounding it but safety, love, and joy? What need has such a mind for thoughts of death, attack, and murder? What can it perceive surrounding it except safety, love, and joy? What is there it would choose to be condemned? And what is there that it would judge against? What can it choose to be condemned? And what can it judge against? The world it sees arises from a mind at peace within itself. The world it perceives arises from a mind at peace within itself. No danger lurks in anything it sees, for it is kind, and only kindness does it look upon. No danger lurks in anything it perceives, for it is kind, and so it perceives only kindness.
Read it from the top in the alternative.
What need has such a mind for thoughts of death, attack, and murder? What can it perceive surrounding it except safety, love, and joy? What can it choose to be condemned, and what can it judge against? The world it perceives arises from a mind at peace within itself. No danger lurks in anything it perceives, for it is kind, and so it perceives only kindness.
And what's he saying in that one?
It's saying that the spirit has no need for thoughts of death, attack, and murder. They don't. They're not part of its remit, of its standing. It only knows love and joy.
Pretty shocking, really. Thoughts of death, attack, and murder, but that's what characterizes the ego. If you're really honest, when you're in the ego, then that's really what's underlying your thought system. And he's just asking us, he's just naming it for what it is and saying, well, what use has an enlightened mind for any of that? It's just of no use at all. Those are just delusions, which, at best, they just torment you internally. At worst, if those thoughts are acted on, then you become a murderer, kill people. You hurt people, you kill people. And we see that acted out in the world all the time because people do it. The enactment of it is evident in this world. But again, that's just symptomatic. The death and attack and murder you see in the world is just symptomatic of the mind that is deluded. So the enlightened mind sees that and goes, well, it's just not true. These thoughts don't really exist. So the projections of false thoughts, why am I going to believe those are true when the thoughts behind those projections are false? So what can I really perceive except safety, love, and joy? It underlies these false projections. That's whether you choose to focus on the background or the foreground. The foreground is all the images of this world that are projected onto the screen. The background is the screen, which doesn't change. So what we're being asked to do is bring the background into the foreground. Say, well, let's focus on the screen, which is the same, never changes, always peaceful. And the foreground, all these images of death, attack, and murder go into the background. And it can't really affect us if we're focusing on the background, because that piece is so deep that none of the images matter. They're just like in a movie. The movie screen is not affected by what's shown. These screens in cinemas have shown thousands of movies. Are any of them changed? No, not one iota. They remain the same. The screen remains, and the screen is the primary reality. The screen remains when the movie stops, and it stays the same. Whatever movie's been shown never changes. So that must be the reality, permanent, eternal, unchangeable. In the same way, peace, love, and joy are the reality, and the illusions of death, attack, and murder are illusion, and we must just dismiss them in our minds, not get fixated on the images. And interesting, because in Hollywood, which is primary illusion, what do they focus on a lot? Death, attack, and murder. That's what a lot of these movies are about. Just the projection of the same thought system now projected onto the screen. But so that can be very useful, because like a matrix within the matrix, you start to see how that works, and you can start to see the bigger picture. Or maybe I'm just a character in a movie, and I'm playing the role just as those characters are, and I got caught up in this, and I've forgotten that I'm in a movie. And actually, none of the images are real. It's just a projection onto a 4-dimensional screen. So it seems to be very real because of the 4D effects. It's the 3 dimensions of space and then time. So it's sequential. The images, happen sequentially. So that they seem to make sense. a very cunning illusion, really. Ego spun to make us believe it. But the real world, when we perceive the real world, we perceive those images correctly as just illusion, and we really focus on the underlying, the screen behind them, which is unchanging and always peaceful. Okay? Happy to move on to number 4.
Yeah, yeah. The real world is the symbol that the dream of sin and guilt is over, and God's Son no longer sleeps. The Holy Spirit has no need of time. Sorry. The real world,
Just skipped.
yeah. The real world is a symbol that the dream of sin and guilt is over, and perfect love's extension no longer sleeps. His waking eyes perceive the sure reflection of his Father's love, reflection of its source's love, and the certain promise that it is freed. The real world signifies the end of time, for its perception makes time purposeless. The real world signifies the end of time, for its perception makes time purposeless.
And read that in the alternative from the top.
The real world is a symbol that the dream of sin and guilt is over, and perfect love's extension no longer sleeps. Its awakening eyes perceive the sure reflection of its source's love and the certain promise that it is freed. The real world signifies the end of time, for its perception makes time purposeless.
What's he saying in that one?
It's saying that the real world is saying that once we perceive the real world, we let go of all the illusion, see through it. We are freed from the illusion.
Yeah. Awakening eyes perceive the sure reflection, source of love. So overlook the illusions, and you see, well, it's a done deal. Peace is inevitable. Love is everywhere. It's a done deal. I can't ever be outside of that awareness, which is my own true awareness. It's not possible. So peace is not only possible, but it's inevitable. And so when I perceive the real world, it signifies the end of time. It's like the final step. The real world in our diagram here is the world perceived from the true self, or the Christ, that it can perceive only truly. It has true perceptions or Christ visions, which are miracles or corrections. It only forgives or lets go, which is surrender, acceptance, salvation, one-ment, enlightenment, Satori, rebirth, awakening, whatever you want to call it. These are all just names for this awakening state of true perception. And so the real world is then the precursor to merging back into God. It's like, well, the necessary kind of, I call it a mezzanine level, because you got to go up at half a level from the illusion. So you got to be above the battleground in order to be ready for the truth to fully awaken, to fully come. So then he says, look, my job is to prepare you for this. My job is to help you take this step to become completely identified with your true self, and from the true self of the Christ to perceive only the real world. That's the scope of this course. He defines it quite clearly in the beginning. He reinforces it throughout. Says, I can't really teach you the meaning of love. I can't teach you this because that's beyond what can be taught, but I can prepare you for its coming, and it will inevitably come because God will take the final step when you're ready. And that's all he says about it, saying, well, that's beyond what can be taught, so it will come when it comes. But in the meantime, I can teach you this thought system and to perceive correctly and to perceive the real world. And so then that's what the proper focus of his course is in this domain, to help you rise above these illusions, be rooted in the true self, perceive correctly the real world. And then in doing that, you prepare yourself for the coming of the revelation of God's perfect love when you're ready. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. It does.
Okay, number 5.
The Holy Spirit has no need of time when it has served his purpose. Now he waits but that one instant more for God to take his final step, and time has disappeared, taking perception with it as it goes, and leaving but the truth to be itself. Remembrance of perfect love has no need for time when it has served its purpose. Now it waits just one moment more for pure formless awareness of perfect love to take its final step, and then time will disappear, taking perception with it as it goes and leaving only the truth to be itself. That instant is our goal, for it contains the memory of God. That moment is my goal, for it contains the memory of perfect love. And as we look upon a world forgiven, it is he who calls to us and comes to take us home, reminding us of our identity which our forgiveness has restored to us. And as I perceive a world released, it is this presence that calls to me and comes to take me home, reminding me of my identity which my letting go has restored to me.
Okay, so what's he saying? Just read it from the top in the
Yeah.
alternative.
The remembrance of perfect love has no need for time when it has served its purpose. Now it waits just for one moment more for pure formless awareness of perfect love to take its final step, and then time will disappear, taking perception with it as it goes and leaving only the truth to be itself. That moment is my goal, for it contains the memory of perfect love. And as I perceive a world released, it is this presence that calls to me and comes to take me home, reminding me of my identity, which my letting go has restored to me. So it's saying here that God will take the final step. Remembrance of perfect love will take the final step, at which time all sense of time will disappear, and all sense of perception will disappear.
So he's taking us. You see the relevance of this diagram, because in the first 4 paragraphs, he's focusing on this section. Yeah. So from the true self, true perceptions of the world, that's the real world, and the true self. So this still an illusion, but the illusion correctly perceived is the real world. And then in the final one, he goes, okay, well, let's just give you a little glimpse beyond this into this the ultimate reality of God, pure formless awareness of perfect love. And he says, God takes the final step. I can't teach you that. I'm just preparing you for that moment where this will come, and you'll just merge back into this awareness. And that's what this is all about. Your ultimate goal is this. Your ultimate goal is not to be a true self or the Christ. Some teachings end there. They say, well, your goal is to be the Buddha, to have a bodhisattva nature. You'll come back repeatedly into the dream to help, and so on. But actually, Yeshua points us beyond that. He says, no, your goal is the ultimate, the infinite, the absolute of pure formless awareness of perfect love. And this just prepares you. These are the necessary steps in that ultimate revelation, preparing you for that revelation. So just, follow this course, do this mind training, and you're doing the best you can to prepare yourself for the coming of this awareness in time when you're ready. And when you're ready, time disappears. Time is not necessary anymore once you're in this awareness. All of this, whatever's below the blue circle, the true self, the Christ, the true perceptions, the world just disappears, dissolves into nothingness, because it was always illusion. And so the Holy Trinity ultimately collapses into the unity of God. There isn't really anything other than God the Father, or in our language, pure formless awareness of perfect love, the source. There isn't really anything else. These are illusions, but the correction that's brought into the illusion through the real world, concepts like the real world and true perception and the true self and the Holy Spirit, remembrance of perfect love, those are necessary corrections to awaken you to this reality of pure formless awareness of perfect love, prepare you for its coming. And so the course's focus is necessarily on this segment. Most of it is focused on this part, from the true self, raising yourself up from this, where he starts, into the true self via the correction mechanism, which he calls forgiveness or letting go. And very little focus on this. He touches on it, and he'll remind you that that's the ultimate goal, but most of the focus is on helping you to let go. In other words, to perceive the real world. And that's the proper focus of the course and the scope of the course, which he, is very clear about. So a useful concept. The real world's just part of the correction of the mind to prepare you for the ultimate goal of pure formless awareness of perfect love, which will come if you've attained the real world. Inevitably, once you're in the real world, it's a done deal. Okay, does that make sense? I think it's a nice little little section. And are you seeing, like, because we've done this before, but it kind of these simple passages, they take you deeper into the truth, don't they? It's like it suddenly starts to make more sense, and you look at the diagrams and you go, oh, I'm starting to put this all together, and it actually starts to make complete sense, and it's so logical. It's a very logical system he's proposing to free us from the dream. And then you start to go, well, there's no other way. It makes common sense. It's so logical. Why couldn't I see it before? Because the ego blinds you to the simple logic of the Holy Spirit. So it wants to keep you stuck in the red box, perceiving the unreal world, and just unaware of what's beyond it. And so that's why we need the correction process to suddenly make us aware that actually we're just misperceiving the whole time. Okay. So any other thoughts on that, John?
No, it's nice. No, it's good.
Yeah. Good section. I like these inserts. And I think they give a lot of clarity, depth, and meaning then to the lessons, which you'll notice are very much connected to them. So if you want to read the lesson quickly,
I did read the lesson. Yeah,
it's only 2 paragraphs. We can read it if you want.
I went through it earlier on, actually, John.
You happy? Okay.
I'm happy with that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Sweet for you. But,
thank you for hanging on a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm inspired by this stuff. So although I'm tired, Elaine was timing out. I'm like, but there's another part. It's there. Actually, if you're inspired, you can carry on. Indefinitely, because it's just the mind that thinks it's time. So thank you. Thank you for that chance to do that. And join. So tomorrow we're going to do an evening session. I know you can't do it because Elaine can't do it in the day, but we'll start at 7. Unless can you make a day session or not?
I could make an afternoon session. Yeah. You do what suits you, John.
Well, I've already said I'll do an evening, so let's do the evening, and then we'll catch up on Tuesday or something. So join us Tuesday evening if you can at 6. I can't do Tuesday evening. You can't do Tuesday either. Well, Tuesday afternoon.
I could do Tuesday afternoon.
Okay, so why don't we do Tuesday afternoon then?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. 12:30 work for you?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Cool. I'll see you then. I'll be in touch about the other stuff as well.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Good. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Good.
Okay. Thanks, John.
Thanks a lot, Jono.
Okay. See you Tuesday.
Yeah.
All right. Go well. Namaste. Okay. So that's a wrap the second time. Take 2 on the wrap. So if you enjoyed that session, then subscribe to the YouTube channel or join us for our next masterclass. The link below, the AOLG.com. You can also sign up to receive some of the material I showed you up front. Go to lifepool.com. There's a link below where you can get a quote and the lesson sent to you via Telegram every day. So hope you'll join us, and to catch you on the inside soon. Thanks for listening, and Namaste, which means the peaceful self in me acknowledges and honors that same true peaceful self in you.